Hey everybody. So I just got home from work, but wanted to just kind of give a quick look at some of these new cards that came out that I'm really excited for. So I started playing Magic the Gathering at Ahmonket Hour of Devastation. So a couple of new cards that were spoiled today, I was super excited about when I first saw them. Uh, so, if you remember back in the Hour of Devastation Amonkhet series, there were five gods. There's Bontu the Glorified, who we first saw as a 3 mana, 4/6 legendary creature god. Menace indestructible, can't attack or block unless a creature died under your controller's turn, and then you could pay 2, 1, and a black to sacrifice another creature, scry 1, and then each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. There's also a Catcher of the True, 4 mana, 3/6, double strike indestructible. A Catcher of the True can't block or can't attack or block unless you control 3 other creatures, and then you can pay 3 and a white to create a 1/1 warrior creature token with vigilance. Then we also had Ronas the Indomitable, which was 5/5 for 3 mana, Death Touch Indestructible, can't attack or block unless you control another creature with power 4 or greater, and then you can pay 3, 2 and a green to give another creature +2/+0 and trample until end of turn. And we also had Caffeine the Mindful, flying indestructible, can't attack or block unless you have 7 or more cards at hand. He was also a 5/5. And then you can pay 4, 3 and a blue, draw a card, and then you may return a land you control to its owner's hand. And last but not least, Hazoret the Fervent. 4 mana indestructible haste, can't attack or block unless you have 1 or fewer cards in hand. Then pay 3 mana, 2 and a red to discard a card, and it deals 2 damage to each opponent. And he is, or she, is a 5/4. So all 5 of these gods reside on Amonkhet, or resided on Amonkhet, and they were tasked with protecting the people and also preparing them for the trials that Bolas had secretly set up on Amonkhet in order to start creating this zombie army, which is what we're starting to see with War of the Spark and the Eternals coming back, which I'm super excited about because it kind of reminds me of my good old days when I first really started getting into Magic. But from this point, we started to see. So in the set Amonkhet, we were introduced to these 5 gods, but then during the set after that, Hour of Devastation, we saw how 4 of these 5 died. We saw Solemnity, which it's an enchantment for 3 mana that players can't get counters, and counters can't be put on artifacts, creatures, enchantments, or lands. But we do see a dead Oketra with one of her followers paying respects. Actually, that might be Gideon, though. I'm not 100% sure about that one. But the arrival of the God Pharaoh marked a betrayal of both gods and mortals. It really starts to speak to this kind of idea that the people and the gods on Amonkhet were all kind of misled by Bolas. All of the gods actually had their memories wiped and changed by Bolas to convince them that they were serving the holy god Pharaoh, which turned out to just be Nicol Bolas, making an army of undead servants. It's also worth noting he had 3 other gods in his service: the Scorpion God, the Scarab God, and the Locust God. Who only showed up in Hour of Devastation because they were already under Bolas's control. One of them, I believe it was the Scarab God, was dead and then zombified before the actual events of Hour of Devastation, and then the other 2 were just straight up evil. And Scarab God is definitely my favorite of the 3 of those ones. So we have Bantu's Last Reckoning, which shows Bantu's kind of last death throes. 3 mana, destroy all creature, so 1 and 2 black, destroy all creatures, lands you control don't untap during your next untap step at sorcery speed. To the last, Bantu wanted only to be the first among the God Pharaoh's subjects. So pretty much to the last moment, Bantu was still like, oh, I want to be faithful to the God Pharaoh, but then she kind of realized that, oh wait, Bolas is actually going to not be great, and ended up kind of redeeming herself to some degree. It's been a while since I've read up on this story, so I'm a little rusty on it, but it's definitely super interesting. Definitely something worth looking at, considering how many of these characters are returning with the Eternals, and then later on some of these gods from Ahmonket. Then we have Hour of Glory, which depicts the Scorpion god killing Ronas. So 4 mana for an instant, 3 in a black. Exile target creature. If that creature was a god, its controller reveals his or her hand and exiles all cards from it with the same name as that creature. The gods of the trials also face the opportunity to prove themselves worthy. So again, Bolas just kind of betraying them, just, once he's done with them, killing them all. Tragic Lesson shows Kefnet dead. 3 mana for an instant. Draw 2 cards and discard a card unless you return land to control to its owner's hand. So pretty typical kind of blue instant here. Though Kefnet's followers feverishly searched for his last words for some final riddle, they found only the gurgles of a dying god. So a little morbid there. But yeah, so 4 of the gods died. Hazaret actually ends up surviving the onslaught with the help of Samut and the Gatewatch, although the Gatewatch are all finished as well and defeated in this block and have to planeswalk away. But that brings us to the current set that's coming up with Enter the God Eternals. Zoom in just a bit here so you can get a better look at this, but Enter the God Eternals deals 4 damage to target creature and you gain life equal to the damage dealt this way. Target player puts the top 4 cards of their library into the graveyard and then amass 4. So what's interesting about this is the 4 of the 5 gods, 4 of them did die, and only 3 at the moment actually look like they've been spoiled in this case. Unless it's been updated since I've gotten home. But it's this really interesting, the number 4 is pretty important here. Let me just double check to make sure they haven't. No. So it still looks like it's just a 3. So first up we have God Eternal Kefnet. So he is a 4 mana zombie god, 2 and 2 blue. Flying, you may reveal the first card you draw each turn as you draw it. Whenever you reveal an instant or sorcery this way, copy that card and you may cast that copy. That copy costs 2 less to cast. When God Eternal Kefnet dies or is put into exile from the battlefield, you may put it into its owner's library 3rd from the top. And he is a 4/5. So it's this really interesting kind of... all of the gods in the set look like they have the put 3rd from the top, and a lot of them also have these triggers. Kyle and I, in a couple of weeks, will be once all the spoilers are, we'll be going more in depth over this, but I just kind of want to talk a little bit more about the story aspect of this. So we do see him covered in the Lazotep, which is what Bolas has been putting on all of his zombie armies, or zombie army to make them actually able to go through the planar bridge, because the planar bridge can only allow non-organic materials through, which means that they have to have Lazotep on them to actually survive the trip. Therefore, he had to eternalize these gods. So it was actually really interesting, really dark though too. I'm interested to kind of see what Samut's response is to this, seeing her gods kind of back from the dead in this pretty horrendous form. Next up we have the God Eternal Ronas, 3 and 2 green for a 5/5 Death Touch. When he enters the battlefield, double the power of each other creature you control until end of turn. Unless creatures gain vigilance until end of turn, when it dies or is put into exile from the graveyard or from the battlefield, you may put it into its owner's library 3rd from the top. So again, the same 3rd from the top, and then add to the battlefield trigger. Again, though, really just kind of, I think the art is gorgeous. I think it's really cool to see these guys coming back. It's a little bit of like a before and then after, where are they now type of thing. It's kind of fun. Then we have God Eternal Bantu, which is 3 mana, 2 black, for another zombie god. Menace, he's 5/6. When he enters the battlefield, sacrifice any number of other permanents, and then draw that many cards. When he dies or is put into exile from the battlefield, you may put it in its owner's library 3rd from the top. So again, 3rd from the top, really cool art, really interesting kind of story aspect here, seeing what Bolas has kind of done to the plane of Ahmonket, kind of reflecting how he warped the culture and then completely changed the culture again. There is one card, I forget what it's called off the top of my head, where actually depicts Bolas going to the plane of Ahmonket for the first time, and he actually kills everyone above a certain age so that he can basically reshape their culture around these 5 gods. And then he went ahead and just killed them all anyway and then took them when he was done with them. So really showing that Bolas is a pretty gnarly character. I actually really like him as a character, and I'm really excited for World of Spark to see what's going on. So, keep an eye out too for the last one, which should be God Eternal Ketra. I'm excited to see what happens there. There is a red god, it's Ilthrog the Razor. We'll be covering that again in the near future when we actually go over the actual magic set review that we're going to do. But definitely like and subscribe. If you're following us on Twitch, that's the best way to catch us live. We would love to start interacting with some viewers as well. If you are willing to kind of give us your input here too, we'd love to hear from our community. So leave a comment, shoot us an email, alternativemtg@gmail.com. That way we can just start building this community. We really want to start building on this kind of casual appreciation for the art, the lore, and just the gameplay itself, and just getting excited about playing a game of Magic. So definitely, we would love it if you would help us out. Really, the best way at the moment is to like and subscribe from YouTube, or just subscribe to us on Twitch. But I hope you all are as excited as I am, and I'd love to hear what cards you're excited about.